So today's topic, we're talking about how the purpose of soulful living isn't in itself about getting quote unquote good outcomes. And so oftentimes we get into this spiritual land with this idea that we're praying to God, or we're learning to manifest, or we learning to be grateful in order to get things from life that we don't feel like we have. Maybe it's love, maybe it's money, maybe we find ourselves in a bad situation, and we want these things to be better. So we want life to change. We want to get something from life in order to then feel better because it's matching our idea of what a good outcome would be. From the point of view of soulful living, what we're doing is, instead of sort of like reacting to our judgments and our discomfort that our life isn't matching what we want, we're learning how to relate inside and outside to our life exactly as it is, so that we can make choices that allow us to continue in the presence, to stay in the presence, so that we can keep relating and connecting and create a life that feels connected and present and like flourishing because it's connected and present. So with that, we'll just open this conversation. So what do you think about that, Melody?
Be more specific, please.
You just have to try.
Okay. I feel like underneath every desire that we have to get something is actually the desire to like access our souls, to access ourselves fully. And most everything, maybe everything that we try to grab for in life is our some sort of interpretation we have that this might be the thing that would get me to feel like I am like with my soul, like I am, like that feeling, like I am home.
I like that. So every attempt to acquire or get or prove or blame is an attempt to get home. Every way we're reacting is an attempt to resolve whatever that discomfort is that we're reacting to in the first place.
Yes.
And so then relating to, the judgment or the uncomfortable emotion or sensation or the situation we don't like, to relate with it that's when we're starting to enter the realm of desire, which is to say we're looking for actual resolution, like actual connection with whatever it is that we're reacting to.
And even that word resolution, I feel like that word has come up a lot in my experience in the past couple of days. And the resolution we're really all looking for is still to like come back home to ourselves, to our souls, to that deeper thing. But the mind seeks that like mental resolution, the closure, some sort of closure. So we feel like these loops are closed. But when we seek resolution in that way, it's still very externally oriented, and it's never going to be that like actual satisfactory spot that we really want.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I've had the experience of late where I know, just by way of example, I've been relating to people with a lot of money by really any cultural standard recently, and I notice, and I've seen this in my own life in different periods, where even though they have kind of what culturally we would assign as like the best outcome, a good outcome, like you're a billionaire, you have more financial resources than you possibly would need in this lifetime, like you don't need to work or anything. These people are still do things as if they're impoverished in some way. And so, like, I have a really close person who, like, yesterday, for example, it's worth millions of dollars, like, got arrested, probably going to spend a couple of years in jail. And it's like, it's almost like, why? Like, why would you do that?
Mm.
And if the goal was to get good outcomes, because you got all the good outcomes.
Well, it is my belief that we're always going to me, it sounds like his soul is trying to hit bottom. That's what it feels like to me.
So say more. What does that mean? What is hitting bottom?
To hit bottom. To hit bottom is to... It's like when you reach this point where anything that... I'm going to speak it from my experience. When we hit a point where any idea or anything that I'm gripping onto that I really want, or that I like an identity that I'm attached to, or just anything, anywhere where this like a grip where that just isn't an option anymore. And then you actually have like those grips are not a thing anymore. You don't have them anymore. And you're left at the bottom where there's that's it. It's like everything you thought was precious, it doesn't exist anymore. Or you found it, like you can actually see that it is not true anymore. And then there's like a reckoning where it's like, this is where I'm at. Now what?
So our soul's bottoming is when we have like a really deeply cherished belief or pattern. And then as we're in pursuit of that, in that belief or pattern, maybe we acquire the cherished thing in the physical or not.
Mm-hmm.
But bottoming is getting to the place where I guess we're cornered in a way around that belief and behavior, such that the only thing to look at that point is our relationship to the belief or behavior itself and how important we're holding it.
Well, yes. And I think bottom is that like step after, because that's like the point when you actually have to look at it, and it's very painful and all of that. It's like that's the doorway to actually hitting bottom. And hitting bottom, to me, hitting bottom feels like the point where you can actually look at that and be like, oh, this is what's happening. And now I'm here.
Yeah.
It's like this, I guess sensationally to me, it feels like it's kind of like it's less chargy. Like there's the looking at it part is that there's a lot of grief and a lot of a lot of anything that comes up in that, and then the bottom is like it kind of like I guess it feels there's almost like a relief in it because it's kind of like, oh, this is what it is. There is nothing else. I can't pretend any other way. I think it feels kind of to me like the acceptance that there's suffering in this world. And we can't get out of that. And if we can't get out of it, then what? But like the actual acceptance, not like the fighting or it's like, maybe I can switch this around so that it's different, but it's like the actual like, this is what it is. The stark reality of things. I'm actually like taking it in, seeing it, seeing my preferences, seeing, judgments, whatever. And then this like, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It reminds me of this Zen story. I don't remember exactly how it goes, although I could probably read it. So a farmer's horse runs away. His neighbor says, "Oh no, that's terrible." He replies, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returns with a herd of wild horses. The neighbor says, "That's amazing." He replies, "Maybe." His son tries to tame one of the horses, falls and breaks his leg. "So unlucky," says the neighbor. "Maybe," says the farmer. Then the army comes to draft young men for war, but skips his son due to the injury. "So lucky," says the neighbor. "Maybe," says the farmer. And the point of that Zen story is to say that whatever the activities happening in our life, for us to just assign and say, oh, that's just good or that's just bad, only captures our own point of view on what's happening. And then as, life continues to play out, it's like, well, we don't really know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, for the person or for culture or society. We can just be with what is actually happening as it keeps happening. And I think that's also an important thing to note that, because we were talking about resolution, and there is no resolution. Life just keeps going. And so to try to get just to solidify an outcome, like I want to get blood, or I want to, make billions of dollars, or I want perfect family, or it's like all of those are trying to create a fixed state to exist forever. And when we're just in the eternal play of life and its continuation.
What comes up for me in this is like even that story that you just shared. I feel like where people can take it not the way that I feel that this is meant to convey is kind of like positive psychologing it, where it's like, oh, I can just think certain thoughts and convince myself that this is like, that this feels good. And I don't, that just is not true for me. Because I feel like the freedom that this gives of like being able to actually choose how we relate to life circumstances is actually like genuinely acknowledging the impact it has on us, because that's when we can then see or act like our thoughts that are running the show, or our judgments, our beliefs that we have on the world, on how we think the world is supposed to be. And then when we can actually feel that and see what's in us creating all that, then we can actually hit bottom on that. Otherwise, we're still floating in this mentally constructed land that we then have to keep upholding here. So then all the energy is stuck in like trying to make ourselves feel better by thinking certain thoughts. And then you don't have any energy to follow desire or hear your desire.
Yeah.
So there's like a clean out phase, although I think we're always cleaning out.
Yeah, I like this sense. So part of when we talk about being a soul, we're talking about there's this very real sense that we can all experience at any moment of what it feels like, what our own space feels like, what our own field feels like. And people have practiced this tradition of being a soul through meditation for thousands of years. So just like sitting and becoming aware of what it's like to be me, what it feels like, what are the sensations, what are the emotions, what are the thoughts that are running. And there is a sense of progression in that awareness that we can start seeing that I'm actually creating my life. And am I reacting to, say, like a fear about somebody screwing me? Am I reacting to that fear? And then I then become the person who's defensive about being screwed. And so then in some ways I'm playing that character, which then people respond to as this like, why are you accusing me of trying to screw you? And then it just it kind of creates the situation that I'm afraid of. It's like I start acting weird and then they start acting weird. And then it's like creating the fear. My reaction to the fear itself creates the fear that creates the situation that I'm afraid of. We could transfer that over to another. It seems like a big cultural fear is like the fear of not having enough money or valuing myself based on money. And so when I don't have in the way that I think I don't have enough, it's like, and if I'm reacting to that fear, then I act like someone who's got to overly prove myself for where I feel like I don't have enough money, or I become very grippy or attached to, sort of like money in my environment. And so I literally become that character that is a representation of my own fear. And it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That me as a soul can, like, I'm, made in the image of the creator, that I can literally, based on whether I'm in reaction or I'm in desire, I'm creating a reality based on my own belief system.
And I think that oftentimes we kind of have to let ourselves go there, especially when we can't do anything about it, because then it gets so loud to us that we can see it.
Sure.
And we can't really do anything about anything unless we have awareness that it's there.
Yeah. And maybe in some ways that's what bottoming out is
Yeah.
it getting so loud
Yeah.
that you're like, wait, this is me. I'm doing
Yeah.
this. I'm creating this.
Yeah.
I'm reacting to this. I think that's so amazing because, and so the main emphasis behind the Village Soul Clinic and community is that we are living in the day-to-day of this point of view as souls, that we have these choices, that we have these patterns and subconscious parts of us and unloved places that we need to learn how to bring into the fold, to make more conscious, to embody, so that and that's what people call healing, so that we can then be a more integrated, present, energetic being, and physical being, and human being, and then the choices we're making, the actions we're taking, are coming from a greater conscious choice. And again, this is an infinite process, so it's never completed. It's never like final, or like, we're enlightened, we don't have to ever do work again. But to live in that process itself of being a soul, that's integrating unconscious parts of us that are running our life, meaning that being the purpose, that is the purpose of who I am, is to integrate more of me so that the outcomes in my life are more integrated. And so that's very different than this cultural ethos of being in reaction to parts of me that I'm unconscious about, and then trying to get. And if I'm getting, that means someone else isn't getting, and there's this whole zero-sum game, like there's the top 2% versus everyone else, or there's white versus black, or there's the Republicans versus the Democrats. These are sort of false oppositions that we create from discarded parts of ourselves that then show up in other people that we feel like we got to fight with.
Do you want to say what integration is? What that means?
Sure. Integration is, so if I'm feeling fear about not having enough money, and I'm reacting to that fear, meaning it's here, it's running here, and then I'm just acting it out, like I'm frantically trying to sell whatever my business is. I'm frantically trying to sell coaching packages. And so I'm just reacting to that fear and trying to sell coaching practices from this fear that I don't have enough money. But then at some point, maybe I hit bottom on that reaction, and I can see, oh, wait, is it actually true that I don't have enough money? Or am I just running on a fear that honestly may be generations old? Like, it may be from my dad, it may be from my mom, it may be from my grandmother who grew up in the Depression era and, collected water from her gutter in a oil drum because money was so tight that they used every resource they could at that time, and she pinched every penny, as that phrase would come from. Maybe that fear was passed down to my mom and then was passed down to me, just this eternal fear about money. And so for me to integrate that fear would be that it becomes salient enough in my experience that the energy that my field, this is the trippy part about this whole thing, My field, who I am, is creating that. I'm creating that feeling. I'm creating that belief. And so that belief and that feeling is me. It's just as me as like my right hand. And so for me to actually then bring that energy and sort of repurpose it to it's not true and have it like disperse as this possibility of like, well, if I just contribute my presence and my purpose in life and my gifts and exchange that for money, then I'm going to, I will continue to have all the money I need. So then it gets me to an actual like sustainable solution that's rooted in reality. And so integration is taking stuff from the sort of an unconscious reaction to a desire that brings true fulfillment in how we live our life. What do you think?
Yeah, I would add that integration is like the analogy of having all parts with you at your table. Like there is a seat available for every part, and nothing is hidden in the back, or one part holds less weight than another. But integration being all parts of me are welcome, and then there is a deeper I that chooses, like has volition and when to listen to who.
Yeah. I think that's a good, it's like an archetypal point of view.
Not fighting ourselves.
Not fighting ourselves. Yeah, and I think you can, she's bringing up like an archetypal view of integration. And then there's like an emotional, behavioral integration of integration. And then there's like sensational, just like on a sensation level integration. Or there's integrating, like it could be an external physical thing that is you're at odds with that you're then integrating. As like you're not fighting with it anymore.
I think that's really what integration is, right? We're actually not fighting it and welcoming it in, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Well, that's our living from desire conversation today.
Yeah.
And just as a pointer, or I'm forgetting the phrase, but if you check out the Desire Cure, the first 3 steps of the Desire Cure, so there's 7 steps of the Desire Cure, the first 3 steps of the Desire Cure are acknowledge, accept, receive. And those are about integrating our entire experience. So those 3 steps have a lot to do with what we talked about today, which is being able to relate to our experience versus be in reaction and trying to get from our experience when through all our getting, what we're really just trying to do is connect and relate to it. So thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.